All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here today. My name is Kaylee Zazula, and I'm the Program and Education Coordinator for Travis Audubon. I want to welcome you to the first lunch series for the month of July. The lunch series in June was so popular that we decided to bring it back for another month. There will be a presentation happening at noon every Thursday for the rest of July on topics related to birding and conservation. I want to thank everyone who has donated to Travis Audubon during the COVID-19 crisis. Your support is keeping us afloat and making this new wave of virtual programming possible. We are still running our Resilience Fund, and donations made through that fund will be matched up to $11,000 by some generous donors. We will include the link to donate to that fund in the chat box soon, and any amount that is meaningful to you is greatly appreciated. We will get started on the presentation soon, and in order to prevent any audio or visual distractions from our speaker, we ask for you to turn off your video and microphone if it hasn't been done already. Throughout the presentation, you are welcome to use the chat function, and we encourage you to leave questions there. At the end of the presentation, I will be having a question and answer session with Laurie using the questions you leave in the chat. With that being said, it is time to introduce our speaker. Laurie Foss started birding at the urging of her high school science teacher in Wisconsin. Since moving to Austin in 2003, she has discovered the joys of Texas birds and birding. A member of Travis Audubon, Friends of Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge, as well as other local, state, and national birding organizations, Laurie is active in leading field trips, teaching birding classes, and working for habitat conservation. Laurie leads birding tours for several Texas birding festivals and works at Shield Ranch in the Texas Hill Country. Now I'll turn it over to Laurie.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see everyone, sort of, in these crazy times, right? So I want to take us through some slides that are going to hopefully help you learn some new ways to find birds in Central Texas. So let's go. So where do we start? I want to start really locally, and then I'm going to show you a little bit wider view and a little bit wider view, a little bit wider view of how to find places to find the birds, whether you already know what you want to see or whether you are trying to see something that you've never seen before, or you just want to explore a location. So where do we start? I hope everyone starts with Travis Audubon, and at travisaudubon.org, one thing you may not know about the website is that if you select birding with us, it will take you to a drop-down list where you select birds of Central Texas, and it'll take you to this page. And on the Birds of Central Texas page, you'll find local birding links. And this is everything from generally Central Texas birding to finding most recent sightings, branching out a little bit to Travis County resources and regional. And it's a tremendous resource for finding your way around the birding areas in Central Texas. So I recommend, when you're going out and you're ready to do some exploring, check out first the Travis Audubon website for places to go. Great resource. So next, where to next? Well, what I'm going to show you is that we're going to start locally with Austin Parks. We'll branch out a little bit and get into Travis County. We'll go into our Texas Parks and Wildlife Region 6, which is the Texas Hill Country and encompasses the Edwards Plateau, and shows us, this little map is a zoom in of the larger area map for Texas Parks and Wildlife. And it shows all of these crazy Texas state parks and natural areas just in our region alone. We'll look at some of those. And then we'll go out even further to the National Wildlife Refuge System and Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge. But before you branch out, before you get out into the local and state and national areas, I hope you start in your own backyard. In the pandemic, I think we've all gotten extremely familiar with our backyards. And for those of you who have a yard that you can do some work in, I hope that you garden for wildflowers. And by gardening for wildflowers, and you're providing a place for birds to land, a place to hide, a place to draw nectar, seeds, etc. So you're not only giving shelter, but also food. If you can put out some water, that's going to be increasingly important for us to have water out for the birds as we now enter the droughty time of year. Provide some food for the birds and a place to raise their young. And when you've done all that, you've created a backyard wildlife habitat as described by the National Wildlife Federation. And you can go so far as to certify your yard through National Wildlife Federation. I think it costs $20, and buy yourself a sweet little sign to let your neighbors know, hey, it's important to me that there are birds in my backyard. And if you do this, what birds will be there? Popular backyard birds throughout the Austin area, titmice of any variety, wrens this is a Carolina wren on the slide, but you could also get Buick's wrens in your backyard, and depending where your backyard is, you could even have a canyon wren. And in the winter, of course, house wrens, downy woodpecker, northern cardinal, blue jay, and our sweet little ruby-crowned kinglet, which we'll get in the wintertime during migration. So interesting birds can land in your very own backyard. Depending on time of year, you'll get a nice different variety of birds. So moving out from your own backyard, if you've had enough, you just have to get out a little bit, but you want to still stick pretty close to home, you can go to Travis Audubon's Baker Sanctuary. And this is in North Austin. It's actually Leander, just off of Anderson Mill Road. It's part of the Balcones Canyonlands Preserve System and is just a gem of a wildlife refuge. You need to be able to get the combination to enter the gate from the Travis Audubon office if you haven't received it in your email monthly, and go on up to the Baker Sanctuary. Off of the Travis Audubon website, you can download a trail map for the sanctuary, and you can see that there are all kinds of interesting trails to follow on either side of Anderson Mill Road and Lime Creek Road. The Canyon Trail is the most strenuous of the trails. It goes not only around the canyon, but down into the canyon, and so be sure you're ready for that one. The Baker Springs and Hatfield Loop Trail are much easier trails, and all of them give you opportunities in the spring to both hear and see a golden cheek warbler. Here are some of the birds you can expect to see at Baker Sanctuary. Of course, a golden cheek warbler, and if you can't see it, you can certainly hear it. Blue-gray gnatcatchers, which nest out there, white-eyed vireo, painted bunting, mourning dove, and American robin. You can see these certainly other places as well, but you almost won't miss these birds when you go in the spring, summer to Baker Sanctuary. So that's a Travis Audubon property, and we're going to move next to Austin City Parks, brought to you by the Austin Parks and Recreation Department, which you can donate to. They definitely would love to have your donations. They have parks like the Blund Creek Nature Preserve, the Emma Long Metropolitan Park, Barton Creek Greenbelt, which is currently closed, and our favorite Commons Ford Ranch Metropolitan Park, which is open currently. And you still have to make reservations for it, to my knowledge. So Travis Audubon partners with Commons Ford to complete the prairie restoration project. There are 203 species of birds that have been reported in the park. So somebody go out and let's bring that up to 205. It's a much easier number to remember. It is right on the Colorado River, and that prairie restoration is spectacular at all times of year and brings in a nice variety of birds. Commons Ford Ranch Park. It's in the west side of Austin, off of Bee Caves Road. You take Bee Cave to Cuernavaca to Commons Ford Road. And if you haven't been there, I recommend it. Here's a map, excuse me, of the trails. The Pecan Grove Loop goes along the river and riparian corridor and then up around the prairie. The Waterfall Trail, you could, if anyone's familiar with reading topo maps, you can tell that you're going alongside a canyon. And so this area of the park is where you would see a golden cheek warbler if there was one there in the spring. And I don't know what this part of the trail system is called. If anyone knows that, put it in the chat, please. Anyway, terrific, terrific trails. Lots of different habitats, and a fun day can be had by all. And what birds are going to be there if you go? Well, of course, northern cardinals and the city's friendliest eastern phoebes. I don't know why, but every year there seems to be one or two eastern phoebes that want to land on somebody's head. Plenty of types of woodpeckers. Because of its location, Commons Ford gets both eastern and western types of woodpeckers. Migratory songbirds, ducks on the river, and there is a great blue heron rookery tree on the other side of the river, right as you get to the riparian corridor. So interesting birds all year long at Commons Ford. There have been some closures to the city parks, and so it's important to keep up with, well, what's going on with the city parks? Are they closed? Are they not? Do I have to have a ticket? Do I not have to have a ticket? What do I need? And so this link that's going to be in the chat for you is a link to how to find out what's closed, what's open, etc., for the Parks and Recreation Department for the city of Austin. So this is the one that tells us that Barton Creek and Bull Creek greenbelts will remain closed. Parks are open, and they should have restrooms and water available. So that's City of Austin. And before you head out to any of the city parks, be sure you check the website to see if they're open or not. This is gonna, I think, change quite a lot pretty soon. So City of Austin. Also within Austin, and run by the city of Austin, but not Parks and Recreation, is our old friend Hornsby Bend, the premier birding location in Austin. And Hornsby Bend has, let's see if I can, has been the focus of birders for over 50 years, so whatever that is. Careful records have been kept, and we have a monthly survey, or we used to anyway. Travis Audubon usually leads field trips on the third Saturday of the month. And there's construction still ongoing at Hornsby Bend, and probably will be for the next year or two. And so please do pay attention to the places that are blocked off and don't trespass. We're only going there due to the friendly will of Hornsby Bend. And so please mind your P's and Q's around the barriers. I don't know if anyone recognizes themselves in this picture. This is from 2016, and it's down at the entrance to the river trail. So here is George Kerr, Michael Behrens. If you recognize yourself in there, let me know. So what birds will be there? Here we're going to find grassland birds like meadowlarks and killdeer, and lots of killdeer babies right now that are super fun to be looking at. Scissor-tailed flycatchers, lots of ducks on the ponds in the winter, and of course their iconic black-bellied whistling ducks. So to put this into perspective for you, there have been 349 species of birds recorded at Hornsby Bend, and there have been 331 species recorded in all of Maine. Just astonishing to me. Hornsby Bend is open to birding visitors, both the ponds and Platte Lane, although I don't think you're allowed to go into the CER for the restrooms. So just be aware that if you get to Hornsby Bend, it's unlikely there'll be a restroom available for you, but it is open to birding. So we'll move on a little bit to Travis County parks. And we'll see here a map of Travis County and a list of parks in Travis County. And the eastern Travis County parks will lead us to Webberville Park, one of my very favorite parks to go to in the area, and the easternmost park in Travis County. At Webberville Park, you'll be able to find a variety of types of habitat, and the more different habitats, of course, the more different birds you'll see. And so there's a nice riparian corridor, there's a mature pecan grove, there's a fence line, there's open fields. It's terrific habitat. You see different things there at all different times of the year. When you enter the park on this road right up here, you're going to drive through this windy road past the athletic fields, and you're going to enter the pecan grove. These are, you see my pointer, I think, shelters for picnics, etc. And you're going to continue down the road until you get here. This is a restroom. You can park here, park here, park here, and walk down this road down to the fishing pier and look up and down the river. Walk further down the path to the boat dock, walk up from the boat dock to the fence line. And this high point here is a great place to look for bald eagles. Walking this fence line can yield many interesting birds. So great things, very interesting birds to find on our easternmost Travis County Park. Birds like 10 species of woodpeckers that have been recorded in the park, bald eagles that nest within view of the park, crested caracaras, and greater roadrunners. So Webberville Park will continue to astound you. Be sure though that you check with the county, make sure that the parks are open. They have been closing them on and off depending on a holiday coming up or severity of the epidemic. So moving out from the county, of course, we'll go to state parks. And in the Hill Country region, there are 19 state parks and natural areas in our region. Just a wealth of recreational activities maintained by Texas Parks and Wildlife. And here's the breakdown by just our region and where they're located within our region. And this is a map of state parks near Austin. And they say it's within an hour's drive of Austin. I say I don't want to be riding in that car when you're on your way to, say, Palmetto State Park. I think that's a little more than an hour, but I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And so lots of opportunities for state parks that you can visit an hour away from Austin. And I want to show you Pinellas Falls State Park, and you'll see why. Bird blinds, bird blinds, bird blinds. Awesome, awesomeness. So to get to Pinellas Falls State Park, you're going to go west from Austin, out Highway 290, until you get to there's a little road marker here that tells you to go up to Pinellas Falls State Park. You can also get there from 71 and Fitzhugh Road, which is a nice drive, just takes longer. So Pinellas Falls State Park, a lot of people go there for the falls, but I think I've only ever seen the falls once. Here's what we call the new bird blind. This has been built in the last 8 years. And they're designed so that you're standing behind this glass and it's at an angle so that it doesn't cause glare on the glass and the birds don't fly into it. And you get to see all of the bird activity where there's water feature and food that they put out for the birds. And it's like watching bird TV. And they have 2 bird blinds all in the same area. And between them is a pollinator garden, which is just spectacular in the summer. A good reason to go there in the summer. So here's a state park map that you can download off of their website, Pinellas Falls State Park website. And when you enter the park down here, there are 3 areas that I like to go to in the park as a general rule. The first one is this first trail to the right called Wolf Mountain Trail. And you'll be walking along a canyon. And so in the spring, there's every chance in the world that you will hear and see a golden cheek warbler. This is, by the way, the trail that takes you to the primitive camping area, but you don't have to go nearly that far to see some really great birds. So coming back around, you can then turn right and go up this long, windy little road, and it takes you to the day use area where you can walk down to the Pinellas River. And although there are not a ton of birds down there, it's really beautiful and it's worth the walk up and down the stairs. And there are restrooms here. And then you move along to the bird blind. And there is going to be, if you walk out, there's a horse paddock over behind it. And you walk over there to use a porta-can. And there are bird hosts at the park that come in and feed the birds every day, usually about 9 o'clock. So when I'm taking a class there, I try to have them feed the birds a little bit earlier if I can. So Pinellas Falls State Park. And down at the end, of course, is the falls. And if you are the kind that enjoys walking down there to see that, not a ton of birds, but a beautiful area just to see the beauty of nature. Pinellas Falls State Park. And what birds will be there? These are western birds for the most part. Lesser goldfinch, Woodhouse's scrub jay. Of course, the mockingbird and the Carolina chickadee are going to be at any of these locations that I've showed you. But also a common ground dove can be easily seen out at Pinellas Falls State Park. So how to find out if they're open or closed? There's a website that takes you directly to temporary closures and operations adjustments. And I checked yesterday, and all of these parks that are close to Austin are open, and the office and the restrooms are open as well. So state parks are a terrific resource for us right now, while many other parks are closed or have reduced hours. And just be sure that you follow social distancing guidelines, be careful to have your mask with you, and wash your hands frequently. So state parks are open, yay. So we've gone from backyard to Travis Audubon to city, county, state, and now we're gonna move out to the National Wildlife Refuge System. This is a terrific resource throughout the country of public lands that are available both for hunting and wildlife viewing. And in our area, we're fortunate enough to have Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge. It was established in 1992, and it's part of the Balcones Canyonlands Preserve Plan. And there are 3 public access areas. And I'm going to show you Doeskin Ranch. This is way up in the hill country. Doeskin Ranch has 5 and a little bit miles of hiking trails, but its claim to fame is that it's the only public area on the refuge with flowing water. So that's a big attractant to birds in our droughty time. Open to sunrise to sunset every day of the year, except when it's not. So be sure again to check for closures before you head out there. And there are a lot of field trips that are held out there. And Travis Audubon is happily one of the organizations that does lead trips out to Balcones. This trail map can be downloaded off of the National Wildlife Refuge System website. This is the parking area. And this first little bitty trail, you would think, well, why would I take so much time on a little bitty trail? It's because it goes by this really great little tank. And so a lot of bird activity happens around this little tank. And then if you're any good at all at reading topo lines, you can see that there's quite a lot of elevation change as you go. And so this is a robust hike. All of these trails take you on some really invigorating hikes. The creek trail, this little pink one just at the entrance, that's fairly new and it's a pretty easy hike and it takes you all along the creek. These others are really great for getting your heart rate up and getting a little exercise, which I'll be the first to tell you birding is not exercise, but sometimes we need it, and this is a great place to get it and see birds at the same time. And what birds will be there? Golden-cheeked warbler, black-capped vireo, as well as other hill country birds. I think blue grosbeaks and I mean just spectacular birds. And sparrows galore in the winter. This is one of the public places you can go to on the refuge in the winter and expect to see really great sparrow activity. So I also want to put in a plug for the Friends of Balcones, who put on 2 festivals most years. Of course, this year, the Songbird Festival had to be canceled, and it's a tremendous festival. Sparrow Fest is a 1-day intensive sparrow workshop, and look for them both in the late winter and early spring next year. And if they're being held, I highly recommend both of them to all birders. I did call the refuge to see if they were open, and yes, all of their public areas are open. And they have porta cans available. So nice to know that our National Wildlife Refuge is open. And this is a phone number that goes directly to the headquarters, and you're welcome to call it at any time. So I would be remiss if I failed to mention one more park in Austin that really has risen to the top of many birders' favorite parks, especially in the spring, Mills Pond at Wells Branch. It's a mud neighborhood park that has been managed for wildlife, but only because of the efforts of many of the Wells Branch residents. So they follow like the City of Austin's grow zones and please don't mow there, you can mow there, please don't mow that. It's resulted in really robust bird activity throughout the park. I spent many happy hours there this spring seeing the migrating warblers and other birds that were there, nesting great horned owls, nesting yellow-crowned night herons, nesting woodpeckers, just really fun. Please, when you go there though, be careful. If this is not your neighborhood park, please be aware that you're a guest of the Wells Branch neighborhood. Wear your mask, do keep your social distance going. And the restrooms, as I believe, are still unavailable. This is located up in the northern edge in the nosebleed section up here in the Austin area, off of Mopac. You take the Wells Branch exit, and I would recommend you follow Google Maps, not Apple Maps, which will lead you astray. So there are more and more and more, so many more places to go birding in Central Texas. And I can't stress enough that I've only shown you a very few. I have to recommend Austin Capitol Grounds in the spring. It's a migrant trap because it's this little green island in the middle of a concrete jungle. And we've had some really memorable fallouts there. LCRA parks, private sites, etc. But in our time of COVID, I want to make sure to give you a resource to help you find alternate locations in case you are unable to find your favorite park open. And so, can everybody still see? I think everybody can still see this, my screen, where now I've moved over to a web page and I've gone to ebird.org and I'm on the Explore tab. On the Explore tab, there's a place to explore hotspots down here on the right. And I'm going to click on Explore Hotspots. And what if I was wanting to go to Pinellas Falls State Park and it was closed, but I still want to head out to that area? I would put in Pinellas Falls State Park into the search bar, and here it is right here. And I'm just going to close these details, but you can see that this is the hotspot for Pinellas Falls State Park. So I'm just going to make that just a little bit bigger so you can see. So if I want to go into this area and see birds of a sort of Western nature, but I know that I cannot go to Pinellas Falls State Park, I might go to Miller Creek Cemetery Road. So 116 species have been reported at this area. I could bring that up and I could view the details, and I could get a map to get to Miller Creek Cemetery Road, which is a public road off of 290 in the neighborhood of Pinellas Falls State Park. It has many of the same type of birds that I would hope to see at Pinellas Falls State Park. We go back to Explore, and let's say that I wanted to go to Hornsby Bend, but they closed it again. Or what if they do close it again? I could look in the hotspot map for Hornsby Bend, and here it is near the airport. And I want to see what else is near the airport that I could visit. Well, here is Richard Moya Park. Here is Onion Creek Greenway and Barkley Meadows. South Austin Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, and Southwest Metro Park. So this is a way to find and try to get to other parks in the area of what you're trying to see. Or if you just don't know where you want to go and you want some suggestions, get your map somewhere near downtown and just start looking around. Maybe you want to go north. The darker into the reds that these little markers are, the more birds have been seen there. So lots of places to think about going to see birds in the Austin area that aren't necessarily associated with a park. There are many roads that you can go down, especially in the outer areas, east and west of Austin, that are public roads that you can carefully walk up and down and find some birds in. So that is my suggestions for you for where to find birds in Central Texas. And all of these little markers are as the result of all of you birders who enter your eBird data. So these are all places that we go birding because they're really great places, and everyone else can go there too, like Pflugerville. And that's what I had to tell you about finding birds in Central Texas. and I would love to hear whatever questions came up.
Hi, Laurie. I'm back.
Hi.
I've been monitoring questions in the chat box. One of the questions that we got was what the hours are for Hornsby Bend. And my understanding is that birders can access pretty much dawn to dusk.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Great. And fortunately, Hornsby is open right now. I know that throughout the pandemic, they've had to close. They're reopening, but before you go to Hornsby, it's probably good to check out their website or their social media just to make sure that they're still open. We had one question asking for more information on the classes at Pinellas Falls. Which ones have you taken, and what do you know about those?
I don't know anything about their classes. When I teach Intro to Birds, I take my Intro to Birds class out there. I don't think that Pinellas Falls has any of their own classes. I think they have some activities for people who are camping there, especially kids activities, but I don't believe they have any classes of their own.
Okay. That makes sense. And you also mentioned big fallouts at the Capitol grounds. What sort of exciting birds have you seen there?
Oh my gosh, there have been springs that we just didn't know where to put our heads in terms of where the trees were. I know we've had ovenbird, Blackburnian warbler, black-throated green. I mean, if you can imagine a great spring day down at the coast, we've had a day similar to that at the Capitol grounds. Also in April, when we expect to see clay-colored sparrows, they're at the Capitol grounds. I've had scarlet tanagers in spring migration at the Capitol grounds. So almost anything can drop in there in the spring. I would have to go back to a checklist to tell you for sure, but there have been times that I've gotten an alert that there was a fallout at the Capitol grounds and a dozen or more birders just pointing as fast as they could to birds.
That's exciting.
It was very exciting.
A fun place full of surprises during the spring.
Yes. And in fact, that's where I met, I've met a lot of people at the Capitol grounds. That's funny. I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, really great.
And I have a question. Outside of Central Texas, where is your favorite place to bird in Texas?
In Texas, I would say Laredo. Laredo has that great Rio Grande River flowing through it. So it has a wide variety of types of habitats. It has parklands. It has an international park, not just a state park, and Lake Casablanca International Park. It has a lot of water away from the river where ranchers have had water rights and have been allowed to bring water onto their land, and they've managed it for waterfowl. And so Laredo has always been very good to me. It can be really, really hot all the time, but it's still really, really fun to go to Laredo and see you get the valley birds without the mosquitoes, I would have to say. That's why I love Laredo. I don't love mosquitoes.
No, that's interesting. I didn't realize that mosquitoes weren't as big of a problem in Laredo. That is definitely a big pull.
They haven't been for me.
Well, Laurie, I think that is it on questions.
Good.
So if there are any other questions that arise, just email me at kaylee@travisaudubon.org, and I can forward them over to Laurie. All right, well, thank you so much, Laurie, for being with us today and giving us a run through of all of the awesome places to bird around Central Texas, Travis County.
You're so welcome. See you guys out there.
All right, everyone have a great day and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.